Hey everybody, Pierre Quinn here. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live. Sunday Night Live is the place, it's the space where as leaders we come and get a tune up, we recalibrate, we redirect so that we can live and lead the rest of the week with clarity and confidence. I'm so excited to talk to you on this edition about the bold moves that many of us need to take to build a future ready organization. Came across a really interesting article and I wanted to share the finer points of that article with you. But before we jump in and talk about that, just want to let you know about 4 Nights to Clarity. Our 4 Nights to Clarity series. If you were with us last year, the end of last year, around December, we had the 4 Nights to Clarity, and we took 4 nights to walk through several leadership development frameworks that leaders like you and me needed to leverage to have a better 2021. Now, 4 Nights to Clarity, that series is coming back November 1st through the 4th. November 1st through the 4th, 2021, somewhere around 9:30 p.m. We'll get together in this space. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on LinkedIn, mark your calendars for the evenings of November 1st through the 4th for our 4 Nights to Clarity series. And I'm so excited. The team is putting together some amazing content. We got one of our favorite live producers helping us out as well to make sure the experience for 4 Nights to Clarity is one that you will not forget and to really help you elevate your leadership in 2022. Now, here's the thing about 4 Nights to Clarity this year. It's all about elevating our senior and executive leadership. 4 Nights to Clarity this year, November 1st through the 4th, is all about elevating our senior leadership and how do we elevate executive leadership. But even if you're not a senior leader or an executive leader, and that is on your vision board or your career aspirations, or you've talked about it with your coach, you want to be sure that you join us for 4 Nights to Clarity so that you can gain the insight to help elevate you on your career. All right, so for tonight's session, we want to talk about how to be future ready. And this is from an article that I read from McKinsey and Company. If you're not familiar with McKinsey and Company is one of the top management consulting firms in the world, and they always publish research and insights and articles to help leaders and organizations grow. And I'm going to provide some feedback and a little bit of context on my interpretation on becoming a future ready organization. And this is really important because we're experiencing a lot of shifts and the clock is steadily moving ahead for all of us. The clock is steadily moving ahead. Nobody's waiting for us. And in fact, some of our organizations are being left behind. And we want to talk tonight about how we become future ready because we have to in order to survive. I want to pause here and say if you're watching on whatever platform, Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, hop in the comment section. Let me know you're watching. Would love to give you a shout out. Or if you're watching a replay of this and there's a leader that you know that really needs to get this content, go ahead and tag them or share the link with them. All right. So how to be a future ready, how to be future ready. How to be a future ready organization. And for a lot of us, if this is not the scenario, the context in which we currently serve as leaders, for a lot of us, it's going to really come down to some bold moves. It's going to really come down to some bold moves because for a lot of the organizations that we've been a part of, when you think about school, when you think about churches, when you think about nonprofits or the areas in which you've volunteered, when you think about your company or the companies that you have worked for, there for some of them has been this really stale or static environment in which things just don't change. They just don't change. And we complain about why we lose market share, why we lose employees, why people lose interest in the causes that we're promoting. And it's simply because we're attempting to do the same things over and over and over, but expecting different results. That old definition of insanity. So, in order for us to be a future ready organization, in order for us to be future ready leaders, in many cases, it is going to call for some bold moves and some bold changes in what we're doing. We got Dr. Sidney Freeman Jr. checking in with us tonight. Good to see you, Doc. So as we're framing out this conversation, here's one thing for us to consider, and the who we are as an organization as we're looking to be future ready. It is rethinking purpose, rethinking the purpose of our organization. This is an area that gets a lot of us tripped up. We have to ask the question, what are we here for? And for a lot of us, we look at maybe our program offerings, or we look at our goods and services, and we say our goods and services, this is what we're here for. But the reality is that the goods and services really are just the outcomes, or the artifacts of what the actual mission or purpose of the organization is. The reason why this is important is because we need to be in a place where, in order to fulfill the purpose of the organization, if it continues to be a valid purpose, we need to be in a place where we might have to consider bold moves, changing our goods, our products, our service offerings, our branding, our language, if those changes, those bold moves, help us better fulfill our purpose. So you got to spend some time around reflecting on what is the actual purpose of our organization. The second one is, let's key in on these organizational values. Let's have another conversation on what are the values that drive the organization. What are the things that we care about? What are the things that our employees care about? What are the things about the people who help us do the work? What do they care about? And how are we leveraging those things in order to be better as we move toward the future? So we got to have the question about purpose. We got to have the question about values. And with purpose and values come the question about culture. With purpose and values come the question about culture. Now, here's something that I've been doing a lot with my clients. We've been doing some mapping. We've been doing some tracking, because for some of our organizations, we have no idea. We have no idea about what the culture actually looks like to us and to the people outside of our organization. So we need to spend some time mapping and tracking our culture and asking questions like, what's the profile of the people that we promote? What are some of the things that we tolerate in our organization? What are some of the things that we ignore? What are the things that we celebrate? What are the things that we need to be out on the lookout for? And having that space to map, to track, especially the social, emotional culture of our organization, they're so big they're so key to making those bold moves to transition to being future ready. And if you're stuck on this, or stuck on any of this, but especially mapping the emotional, social culture of your organization and looking at the implications of that, I would love to talk to you about that. Just hop over to pierrequinn.com and click the contact button, and we can continue the conversation in that space. All right. So in order to be future ready, we got to have some conversations about the who of our organization. Who are we when we look at our purpose? Who are we when we consider our core values? And who are we when we navigate our culture? All right, so we want to move to the how, to this how section of how we operate as we're looking to be future ready. How do we operate? And it comes down to this first one. It's a question of structure. It's a question of structure. And we're seeing some shifts happen. Really, we've started to see them happen for really the past decade, where we're coming to terms with whether or not the traditional organizational chart is actually helping our organization. Now, this is tough, That top down paradigm, there's that one key leader at the top in that corner office with the glass doors and the big chair that makes all the decisions, and everything cascades down to the rest of the organization. The shift of the last 2 years or so has really heightened and accelerated this conversation for us to ask, is this structure actually the best for our operation? Is this structure accelerating or inhibiting the work that we're doing? And what are some conversations that we need to have about possibly redrawing the org chart or looking at a different functioning structure altogether? And this comes into play because when we make decisions, when we make our decisions in terms of operating, for some of our organizations, the decision-making process is so slow and it's so cumbersome, and it's not always a risk management context. And we say, well, we have to go through these checks and balances so that we don't make any mistakes, so that we don't get sued, so that there's no legal trouble that we have to deal with. But sometimes it's just a function of mismanaged processes depending upon our structure. We got one or two extra steps in there that is making things so much difficult. And sometimes it just comes down to ego. A person wants to have just a little bit of weigh in or just a little bit of buy in that they think traditionally helps things get done, and it helps to minimize risk. But sometimes it's really just an ego thing. And we can develop better processes to move things along in our organization because we're losing opportunity. That window of opportunity sometimes closes. We lose out on great talent. We lose out on funding, on resources, sometimes because our decision-making process is so cumbersome. And speaking of talent, we really have to wrestle. If we want to be future ready, we really have to wrestle with how we navigate the talent in our organization. Like, what is our recruiting practices? What do they look like? And are they the same recruiting practices from the days of old? What does talent development look like? I know it's been big for a lot of organizations. The cornerstone organizations have been working on talent development for decades, and a lot of smaller organizations are just now catching up. But how do we do talent development? And talent development is not a workshop. Talent development is not a seminar. Talent development is not sending your leaders to a retreat for the weekend. Talent development is actually a culture thing. Is the development of talent an integrated part of the culture? And a lot of times where we see it the most and where it's the most difficult is when people exit our organization for whatever reason. And let's say they exit for a good reason. They have an opportunity somewhere else. We've helped them to grow, we've helped them to develop, and they have an amazing opportunity with another organization. That happens. That just happens. People will leave the organization. The question is, in how we develop our talent and how we onboard and how we help people reskill, have we developed a pipeline so that when we lose a critical leader for whatever reason, we have a structure of developing the people in our organization so that there's more than one person that can step up and continue the great work that we're already doing. So the who, the how, and here's one more as we consider how to be future ready. Who we are, the how we operate. This last one is how we grow. This is so important. How we grow. And what's our ecosystem? What's our ecosystem? No, we're looking at purpose, value, and culture. We were looking at talent and the org chart and how we make decisions. But it's a question of what's the relationship between all the entities or the departments or the initiatives in our organization, and how are we managing, how are we leveraging, how are we connecting the different parts of the networks in our organization in order for us to continue to grow. A lot of organizations get stymied because of the siloed mentality, the siloed ideology. where HR feels like they're the best part of the organization and the way they do things is the best way that there is to do things, or marketing feels like it's the best part of the organization, or the finance team feels like they're the best part of the organization, and everyone is working in their little silos to do the best job. If we're going to be future ready, because time is not waiting for any of us, future ready leaders that are looking to develop future ready cultures work to leverage the entire ecosystem and bring the critical components of their organization together. How we grow, another huge piece of how we grow to become future ready is tech. It's got to be a question about tech, and not just can everyone get on the Zoom call or Teams call or WebEx. That's maybe foundational, but how are we integrating technology into into what we offer as it relates to purpose and the values of our organization? How are we leveraging the technological advances that we have to be better at what we do? How are we doing that? And then the last one that I'll share tonight, and this comes from, as I mentioned before, an article I read from McKinsey and Company about how to be future ready. The last one is, how are we learning? How are we learning, especially across the organization? What's our learning and development? Not just our talent and our talent development as people come into our organization and they move up the ladder of sorts, if that's what they're looking to do in their career. But what does learning across the organization look like? What does the learning plan across the organization look like? Because it's not just our interns and our early career professionals that need development and learning how to reskill. It's not just people at a maybe a mid-tier level that are looking for a promotion. It's organization wide. As there are shifts in culture, as there are shifts in the marketplace, as there are shifts in the interest of what our clients and constituents are looking for, we need to have a learning and development plan that permeates our entire organization so that we can learn and grow together and not just in the silos that I mentioned before. So, if we're considering what it means to be a future ready organization and to be a future ready leader, in many cases, is going to call for us to make some bold moves, some bold changes in our organization. And it's going to be tough to navigate because change, we all know that change is difficult. Change can be difficult, but navigating change and helping your organization be better as a result of the change is a core component to being a great leader and to building a future ready organization. Okay, folks, this is all I got for this episode of Sunday Night Live. Consider this as you start your week, as you move to leading with clarity and confidence this week. And I want to remind you of one more thing. Mark your calendars for November 1st through the 4th. November 1st through the 4th, we're returning with our 4 Nights to Clarity series. And this year, we're going to focus on senior leaders and executive leaders and how senior leaders and executive leaders can leverage what it means to care about your organization. And even if you're not a senior leader, even if you're not an executive leader, this will be a great series for you as you lead up the organization or look to progress into senior and executive leadership in your career. That's November 1st through the 4th here on Sunday Night Live, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. So until next time, I know that you're going to lead with clarity. I know that you're going to lead with confidence this week, and I know you're going to have a fantastic week. So thanks for hanging out with us so much on Sunday Night Live, and I'll see you soon.